DJ Smallwood here with Slingin Dirt Media. We're in Tall Pines Automotives with Dan Hurt, getting some old Brown County stories and whatever else Dan's going to tell us about. Me and Dan kind of grew up a little bit together, so if this gets a little off track, don't be surprised. Dan, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, dude. Like we were talking about off camera here, man. I know some of mine in your stories have came up in other episodes, and man, it's just these are good stories. I mean, this was if you think back, okay, I would have been like in high school.
Probably.
Yeah. So remember the old Chevette days? Chevettes
Oh, yeah.
were really, really popular.
Yep.
You were racing. You was already racing before Chevettes got popular.
Right.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so I started racing street stocks.
Yes.
So my first car, actually, Mike Day built it, I think, for somebody. I think it was actually for Bingaman, Officer Bingaman, that passed away here a couple years ago. He was the first person that, Mike Day built a car. I was getting pretty stupid with dirt bikes, racing back here, just actually on this property.
Yeah.
Running dirt bikes, and I was getting pretty ignorant with them. And I got one, I tore one up, tore a clutch out of it, and I wanted a big wheel racing bike. And my dad says, we were talking about it, my birthday's coming up, I'm getting ready to turn 15. Like, man, I really want to race these dirt bikes so bad.
Yeah.
And I just had like old junkers. They were pretty quick bikes, but Dad says, "Hey, we're done with dirt bikes." I'm like, "Yeah, that's the last one you'll ever buy because you get me a 125, I am good. I promise it'll last me until I get my own job and make money myself and all that." And he says, "No, you don't understand. We're done with dirt bikes." I'm like, no, I'm finished. That's fine. We've got this dirt bike. Well, Dad and I standing in front of the garage, and the windows was blacked out in the shop. And I didn't know what was going on. I kind of had a feeling that there's a dirt bike there. And he opens the garage door, and it's a 1976 Nova that's got a roll cage in it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
well,
there we go. I'm like, I'll just put a clutch in my dirt bike. He's like, we're done with dirt bikes.
We're done with. You're not getting what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're done with dirt bikes.
We're through. So that was one of the things that I came up. I had absolutely no fear, and I don't know.
I remember that.
there was things that I would do. It was even just driving to school with that Chevette. Of course, you were still riding the bus. I don't think your dad would let me take you to school.
No.
But I would make a turn wide open in that Chevette, come up on two wheels, and and I could run that Chevette on two wheels, and my buddies would be with me, and it's like, what in the world is wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
So that was just one of the things that I did.
Part of growing up.
Yeah. I probably should have been a greasy spot somewhere, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe.
Wrapped around a telephone pole.
Or a tree in the woods.
Yeah.
Didn't we run the Chevette through the woods like as fast as we could?
Oh yeah.
Small saplings would just fold over and just keep on going.
Oh, we gotta tell a Barry Doss story here in a minute. But,
of course.
We'll get over to that in a few minutes. But yeah, street stocks were kind of my thing. I raced my junior year of high school. Turned to senior. We got another car. It was a Monte Carlo, a little better car, a little lighter. Actually, I won my first races in that car. I never won a feature with that car because I ended up rolling it a few times. But
I remember the roof on that thing looking a little
it was pretty
gnarly.
So we had the street stock. Won a few races. It was fast car dashes and heat races. I didn't win a feature. I think I ran second a couple of times. Back in that day, there was a gal racing. Her name was Judy Zoller.
Okay.
And man, she was tough. And I don't know what made her so good, but she had an old Chevelle. And man, she'd come around the corner and she'd pat the throttle, and then go on down to the other end. It's like, man, you just couldn't do anything with her. But I'd win my heat race sometimes if she wasn't in it.
Right.
But that was kind of where I got my start, and I decided I really, really liked it, and I wanted to go forward.
So before you go forward, I'm going to need, there's a particular picture. I'm going to need you to look up and see if you can find this picture so I can put it on here.
Okay.
There's a picture of you standing by the first engine you ever built.
Okay.
I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was like a 327.
It was a 350.
350. Okay.
Yep.
It was all bright orange and had the chrome air cleaner on it.
Yep.
You're like 15 standing by this thing.
Yep.
So, like, this is Brown County Fair worthy. Like,
Right.
put the ribbon on this thing. I just
yeah.
built this thing. And
Yep.
Danny's 15 years old, little hair hanging out the back of his hat and everything.
Yep.
I need to get a picture, a copy of that.
I've seen that. I've seen that picture, and I don't know exactly where it is.
Oh, you got to dig for that one.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, I was born with wrenches in my hands. My dad, he was a truck driver, worked for the Teamsters, and he did pretty much anything. Actually, I don't know if it's in the picture here, but I do have a picture of Mom and Dad and me with that first street stock.
I'll get a copy of that and get it in there.
Yeah, but my dad worked for Trammellville, and he started out as a sandblaster, just a young guy, and they moved him to the welding line, then eventually to the painting line, and before they shut down, they had him doing decals. So that whole place shut down and kind of ruined his retirement because he had 18 years in, I think, and Trammellville, they shut down because the building was too short. Because, like, you know, people that, you know back in the 60s and stuff like that, the trailers were shorter.
Right.
And I think they was 12 foot, and then they moved them up to like 12.6 or something.
Right.
Well, at Trammellville, the building was set up for 12-foot trailers. They could roll them right through and do all the work. Well, when they got taller, they put these little tiny dummy wheels on them to get them through the line.
Yeah.
Well, then when they went to 13.6 like they are now,
the dummy wheels wouldn't fit.
Yeah, so pretty much they were done at that point. So they shut up, shut the doors and moved elsewhere. My dad stayed here local. Already had kids and everything, so he went to Lennox Trucking, which is a subsidiary of like P&G.
Yeah.
So he did switch trucks for P&G.
Right.
They would come in over the road. He would like take their trailer, go park it wherever he needed to categorize the trailers, and then give them another empty, and they would head on back home. And they didn't do it like they do today, where each truck driver is like going to unload his own trailer and all that stuff. They they kind of eliminated what my dad did. But
yeah.
anyway,
I just remember your dad he had ingenuity.
Right.
I mean, things that made race cars back then.
Yep.
That's what made racing back then.
Right.
It wasn't buy parts, and that's what made the world go around.
Absolutely.
You made your own stuff. I mean, I remember some of the stuff that he made, steering wheels, off of tractors and stuff he had in some of your cars. Like,
he actually built our first seat
Yeah.
out of an electric box.
Yeah.
So, like them electric boxes that are on the side of the road and, all that deal. He actually took one of those and built a seat. The first seat that I sat in for my street stock was one of those.
Yeah.
And he built the whole thing. So.
Unreal.
Yep.
That don't happen nowadays.
Yeah.
So, your Monte Carlo you did good on.
Yep.
Then I remember helping you build a, was it a 72 Nova?
It was somewhere around there. I think it was a
74 maybe?
74. It was
74.
a 74.
Yeah. And
yep.
we kind of, gosh, I don't know what you would call it, made miracles happen. You ever seen a 74 Nova under 2,400 pounds?
Right. Well, yeah. So this car, it wasn't actually a car. I just used the sheet metal to put it back. And it had this full stock clip. 74 Nova. It actually the steering box was on the back side of the cross member, so it was a rear steer car, and that car. Actually, I put it had aluminum nose on it.
Yeah,
so that was back in the '90s. So like NASCAR, they were running aluminum.
Yeah,
so I had aluminum nose on it, and actually, I flipped the trunk lid upside down to make it have a spoiler.
It was stock.
It was a factory stock.
It was factory stock
they
truck.
Told me I wasn't allowed to run a spoiler, but it's a stock trunk lid.
It's a stock trunk lid.
Just
Flip it upside down.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. Won a few races with that thing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to drive. It was kind of kind of pushing the rules a little bit, but you know, they said on the rules you had to have frame connectors, and then eventually they said in the rules again that you could eliminate the floorboards and, you know, have open floorboards. So, you know, I had frame connectors and no floor, so I had a Monte Carlo, or it was a Lumina that was
74 Lumina.
Lumina. So, but that was the next car, and then I decided that I liked racing enough. Even though my dad hated late models and he hated anything that wasn't a street stock.
Yes.
He actually hated the Lumina, but
yeah, he wasn't a fan of that.
No.
I remember that.
The plain factory stock cars is what he liked.
Yes.
Plain Jane street stock.
Full frame, full body.
That's what he liked.
Yeah.
And you know, he wasn't against the late models. He didn't like them. And I went up to, I believe it was Portsmouth. They had a swap meet, and I came across a WRC car.
Okay.
Rodney Combs chassis, and I bought the car, and I brought it home, did some adjustments to it, you know, took it out, started racing, and I was probably the worst late model driver that ever walked the face of the earth because I was horrible.
Really?
I would run into the corner, I would spin out, but I was good at spinning out. So, I mean, you know, they probably could have hired me for, you know, stunt driving school because, I mean, I could spin a car out
and
never lose my place.
You had that down.
Yeah, I could spin out, never lose my place. I'd run down to the other end, I'd spin out, never lose my place, and I'd keep on going. And the flagman at Brown County Speedway, like, that's just his line, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, we'll let it ride.
We're going to stay green.
Yeah, we're staying green for Dan Hurt and all his shenanigans here. But, yeah, so I started working a little closer with Tom Moeller. And Tom knew quite a bit about cars, and at the time John Osmond was driving. He started helping me a little bit more. And it's like, hey, maybe this kid's got a shot. And, you know, financially, no. Helping, Tom was like, he was always there. He would say, hey, you know, let's do this and let's make this. And I actually had a swing arm on the right and a 4-bar on the left in that same WRC car. And I think I won my first feature in, I believe, 98 with that car.
Okay.
And
this would have been at
Old
Brown County.
Yep,
County Russellville.
Yep. And you know, like I said, it was a pretty cool car. I was running top 5s consistently.
Yeah.
I was racing with Matt Gallardi, Barry Doss, which, you know, we'll talk about him in a minute too. But they talked, let's see, Little John.
I remember another guy you was helping for a while too, and when you were helping him, this guy seemed to be winning a lot.
Yep. Yep. I used to help him a little bit, and
Dave Kirker.
Yeah, I remember Dave. He was a very talented driver. Mm-hmm. Actually, you know, he was he had a kind of a niche there where he came in and he was a good driver.
Yeah.
And I was testing a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff that car. He had no clue what I was doing to the car.
Right.
But I would change a lot of things, and like I would learn off of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think it helped me be a better setup man.
Yeah.
So once I actually got racing my own stuff, I was ready.
Yeah.
And you know,
not spinning out so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was still spinning out. I mean, that was my
you just
thing.
didn't know how to drive.
But yeah. So I mean, I was bad, but you know, like I said, I eventually got it. I you know, took me 3 or 4 years, but I eventually got to where I was running top 5s and I could win races and at Brown County.
Yeah.
But you know, outside of that, you know, I had a good time getting there.
Yeah.
So and once I got there, to that point, I started getting a little bit of help. You know, sponsors. I got you know, friends helping me.
Yeah.
Billy Thompson. He came in, and he kind of came in and started learning the sport with me.
Okay.
And Billy was like, he's a really smart dude. And actually, I took him just this past weekend to Moeller. And
no kidding.
He helped AJ.
No kidding.
Yep. And I seen a kind of switch turn on with AJ this past week, and AJ got 8th at Moeller, which sounds pretty bad when there's only 12 cars there.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. Now,
yeah,
AJ is
he's my middle son.
Your middle son. He's how old?
He's 20.
Okay, so AJ's 20.
Yep.
He's running a late model now.
He's run 6 times in the car.
And this is his first year.
First year.
6 times.
Yeah.
Hey, the kid's got to start somewhere.
Right.
I
he
get
raced go-karts for a little while. AJ got into wrestling.
Yeah.
Blake was into soccer.
Yeah.
They both had interchangeable sports there. Blake still does wrestling and MMA now and jiu-jitsu and all that.
Okay.
AJ still plays a little bit of soccer, so soccer and wrestling was kind of our family's thing. It wasn't racing. As bad as I wanted it to be, I had big toy hauler campers that I had go-karts stacked in.
Yeah.
We did all that. I loved it, but I mean, it got a little monotonous, and it wasn't because, Blake was very talented. AJ was okay. He was, but my 2 boys, Blake was my most talented driver. He would come in and he could run a body all season long. He would come in, and I'd make little tweaks on it all the time, and I'd send him back out. And he won, I think, 22 straight features at one point.
Yeah.
AJ, when he would come in, I was hunting parts to put it back together because, he done tore it all to
He
pieces.
tear it apart.
Yeah. So the car's all tore up, and we're trying to get the body bolted back on, or find tie rods or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was AJ.
Okay.
But now AJ's he's a very smart mechanic here at my shop. He's like my number 1 guy. I'm not the same as I used to be as far as working on cars. I've slowed down a tick, and plus I try to run this office a little bit in here. But
yeah,
AJ's my go-to guy to work on stuff. Blake, he's my 22-year-old that used to run this office, but I actually had hip replacement surgery. I got my back broke in 2020 racing a sport mod.
A sport mod.
Yep. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, that was at I-35 Raceway.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm still kind of recovering from that. I've raced a little bit since then. But, one feature in a late model, and I think I ran 2 or 3 sport mod features, but since 2020. But I've slowed down a little bit, and I need to run this office more. Blake's learning how to work out in the shop.
Be a better mechanic.
Yeah, and working with AJ. It may kill him, but he's trying to learn. And, it's been frustrating for him. He's to the point where it's like, man, I don't know if I'm making the right career choice here and all that, but
I feel like it's going to take about at least 10 years to figure that out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
10 years, then you'll know if you like something or not.
Right, and 10 years from now, this business right here, it's got huge capabilities. Mm-hmm. I'm very laid back with my kids working here. We're busier than what we wish we were sometimes. But, we
that's a good thing.
Yeah, we make a good living here. We take care of what we need to, and sometimes it's like it takes me a couple of weeks to get a car in and out.
So how long have you had your own place?
Okay, so
because I remember for a long time you was at Gabbard's Ford, Mount Ord Ford.
Yep, I worked at Gabbard's Ford. Ralph Gabbard was like, he was an awesome dude.
And there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Right. Ralph Gabbard was like a grandpa to me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy. I cried when he died.
Yeah.
And they sold it to the Williams Group, which they're more business oriented. It's not that Ralph was like a family type deal.
Yes.
Kind of like what I try to run here. My boys are running this place. I know that
more family owned and operated, and
it's 100% family owned and operated. And my thing is, what I want my boys to be able to do is, make a good living, not rip people off.
Yeah.
They go
honestly
to bed at night. It's like it's an honest living.
Yeah.
They treat people fair. They treat people right.
And do a good job.
Right, and do it right.
Yep.
And like I said, that's one thing that I tell my boys all the time. I'm more interested in make sure that it's right, make sure that it's fixed, make sure it's fixed correctly.
Yeah.
Give it back to the customer. They'll be back.
Yeah, you know that it's done right. Yeah. There are many things that, you know what, somebody else might do something faster than what I do.
Sure.
I might be a little bit slower, but I know when I'm done with it, it's done. Right. It's done right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gotta be right.
I'd much rather take my time and do it right than rush through it and mess something up.
Sure.
You know. And again, that doesn't matter what I'm working on. If I'm working on a race car or if I'm working on somebody's plumbing,
right?
I want it to be right, and you know what? I'll take it a few extra minutes. That's what it takes.
That's the number one thing, that if they bring it to you to, you know, whatever it is, if the brakes are bad, you make sure the brakes are right, and then get back to them.
Brakes are kind of important.
Yeah, they are. So I mean, that's one example, but I mean, shoot. But yeah, so getting the whole AJ thing, he's a really good kid. He's got good drive for the sport. I want this sport to continue to grow.
Sure.
It's been shrinking, I think. I'm not sure if it's shrinking or growing right now. The sport mod class definitely helped, which we talked about that before.
That could have been, the sport mods could be, I'm not going to say it saved racing. It could be a Band-Aid, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe put the fingers on the jugular for a minute. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. But like any class, I just find it's hard to, for a long period of time, it's hard to control it.
Right.
You know, and I think we talked a little bit about this off camera. I think every class tends to get out of hand.
Sure.
You know, you're always going to have money issues and things are too expensive, and people that like I said, that should be in late models are racing in modifieds just because they can compete there and they can't there. In any division, any class, go-karts, tractors, doesn't matter. You're always going to have that, and there's really no solving that problem.
Right. Well, I mean, the cream rises to the top.
Yep.
If you work at it hard, you know, that was the thing with me back in the day. Anybody that actually knows me and actually knows my story about racing, I used off-falls and junk that somebody else threw away. And I went to the auctions, and I was the only guy on McCreary tires. I would buy McCreary tires by the truckload because I could get them for $30 a piece.
Yeah.
At like Indianapolis and stuff like that. And you know, I won races racing with subpar equipment.
Sure.
And you know, and like I said, I embraced that, and it was me against the world. I mean, I wish I could have been a little bit like more. I don't know. I would have been able to talk to some of the guys that had money, that was interested in the sport, that maybe would have gave me a chance in a real late model.
Right.
And really gave me a chance, but it just never really happened.
Right.
You know, which that was cool. I think a lot of it was my temperament at the time.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was me against the world, and I tried my very hardest every time I went out, and you know, especially at Brown County Speedway, I felt like I was really, really competitive there.
So who was your biggest rival?
My biggest rival was Little John Whitney.
Okay.
And to be totally honest, we both, you know, we were both had similar driving styles. We were both trying to keep the car under control, keep the car straight. Mm-hmm. Especially at Brown County Speedway when they cut the bank out of it and it was flat. We would run the same line. We was always fighting over the same real estate. We were first and second pretty much every time at Brown County Speedway.
Right.
There was a few other guys that maybe slip in on us, you know, but you know, Little John, I mean, we were really good friends. He got the big chance and the big opportunity. Yeah. You know, it cost him his first marriage and, you know, some things like that. And then I know that he ended up married to his second wife. And her and my wife did not get along at all. And it caused a little bit of tension between him and I.
Yeah.
But, you know, going forward, I mean, we still talk. You know, we're cool with each other. You know, even though we had idiot wives at the time fighting over you know certain things, but you know that was probably my biggest rival, and I think the other one, I think Ricky Combs. He was one heck of a driver. Probably.
I haven't heard that name in a long time either.
To be honest, I think he was probably the best guy that ever walked up on the hill at Brown County Speedway, and he was really good.
Yeah.
I think that he wasn't super personable,
Right.
at least with me, and I think I don't know if maybe he's a little bit bashful or maybe it's my temperament. I'm not sure. We didn't get along real well, but like I said, at the end of the day, I mean, he was probably the best guy to ever walk up on that hill.
Yeah. I think I've heard somebody else say that too.
Yeah.
He said Lil John. He's got a bunch of wins there.
Oh yeah.
But they said Ricky might have had the talent.
Yeah. He did. I mean, Little John won a lot of races that, you know, a lot of them I ran second in, and I know one night in particular, you know, I was working on a setup to where I could get one good lap in, and I had quick time over there several times.
Yeah.
And Little John would, you know, he was always fast at the end, man, and he was beating on my, you know, beat the spoiler off my car, trying to figure out a way to get around me, and I would just stay under control and stay in his way.
Yeah.
And I know one night over there, he had a hot rod that night, and I was running the bottom, and it was like when I would start coming off of turn 2 especially, the car would start stepping out on me. And I'm like, man, I am in trouble. Little John's going to smoke me. I know he's right there. I can feel it.
He's going to smoke me.
Yeah, and I'm like, what in the world? Well, it was still a little bit tacky down on the bottom. So I started running the bottom of the straightaway, too. Especially the back straightaway. I would run the bottom. And lo and behold, here he comes and he cruises right up on the outside of me, and he's up on my hip. And, I gave him room, and like I said, it took him about 3 or 4 laps to make the pass, but man, he finally did, and he
had to work for that
out.
one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, but yeah, Lil John, he was something else, and like I said, there was times where I remember a top dog over there, Jason Montgomery won the feature.
Yeah.
And I started back pretty far, and I was like, man, it was one heck of a race for us. Because I passed Little John, I passed Ricky, I passed Matt Gillardy. I can't remember who all else. I think Jerry Bowerstock, passed him that night. Coming to the front, I started way back.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I passed some really good cars, and Jason got me by a fender coming to the checkered. And,
right.
I was like, man, that was one heck of a moment. And if I could have just got a couple more feet on Jason there, or if I could have got around a guy a little bit quicker, because I was coming at the end.
Yeah.
And that was a really memorable race for me.
Right. I've wondered a lot I don't know if anybody has such a thing like the stats or anything like that, and I don't know, I'm a weird history nerd, geek, whatever, but it's like our local tracks, like we mentioned Brown County, Florence, Moeller, Lawrenceburg, they've been in business and they've been running for so long, and now Brown County's been closed for a while, but it's like, you think like Little John, how many races he won there, or Barry Doss, how many races he won there.
Sure.
I want to know, like, who's the all-time winningest driver? What driver has the most feature wins there?
Yeah.
Things like that. That's just things that I'm curious about.
Put my money out there, I would say Little John by a landslide.
By landslide?
Yes. Now,
really?
Here's
over the boss.
Oh, definitely.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Barry.
Okay, maybe I'm just not up on my Brown County history, but I always
Barry
thought
was there.
Barry had a lot of wins.
He was a heck of a driver there, especially when it had the bank there. Man, he could chalk that right rear tire up on that bank, and he was tough.
Yeah.
And I got the privilege to work with him for a long time, man, and
I think I get the privilege of us doing some lunches.
Oh yeah, to do a few of those.
We got to do a few lunches. I was working like a different. Was it second or third shift?
Oh, yeah.
So I would get up in the morning. My morning would be your guys'
Yeah.
lunchtime, and
Right.
we'd meet and
Yeah.
go have a ham sandwich.
Right. Heck yeah. So, yeah, as far as that goes, now I know that, by broadcasting now on C103, I know certain things about certain drivers, and I know Vern Lefevre's has got, that's a pretty cool name too, right? Vern Lefevre's has got 660 feature wins.
It's a bunch.
So the thing is I have absolutely no freaking clue how many races I ever won in my life. I don't know if it's 20, if it's like, 26. If I have
Sure.
no clue. I don't know, and I honestly I don't care. Because if you go around my shop, I've got a few trophies in my garage, but I gave every trophy away. I usually gave it away to a little kid.
Yeah.
And I have absolutely no clue how many races that I won. And
Now, are you talking about feature or
Feature
heats?
wins.
Okay, I can tell you.
Features wins.
I can tell you very easily how many feature wins I got.
Really?
I got 0 feature wins. Now,
gonna
hey,
say that, but
you got some B mains. I might have won a couple of those.
Right. Well, but I mean, as far as I have no clue how many
Right.
races I've ever won.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't matter to me. I know some people, it's like, hey, I won this many wins.
Yeah.
I know Little John was somewhere around 100.
Yeah, man.
And
God, that seems like that's a low number for him.
well, he won.
I mean,
a lot.
I get his career probably was not as long and didn't span as much as, man, Vern's been driving forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Vern Lefevre's was driving when I was born.
He's been driving before I was born.
Oh yeah. So I mean, Vern over at Goddard.
Mud Lake.
Yeah, Goddard, Mud Lake, all these. I mean, my gosh, I'm pretty sure.
Old
the
Northern
Chevette
Kentucky
story that you were referring to earlier.
Yeah, that's a good one.
that was. I'm pretty sure Vern won that night.
Oh, I'm sure he
was
did.
driving the number 34.
Oh yeah, the
Stevens
Stevens car back then. Yeah.
And,
Which later Little John became drove for.
Sure. And yeah, I mean that was a track Vern won pretty much every time he was there. I mean, I don't remember him not winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I don't even remember who else would have been close to winning races at Mud Lake other than Vern.
I don't know, but he was tough there. I do know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And he would come up to Brown County Speedway from time to time. He was tough there.
Him and Gallardi. Yeah.
Yeah, Gallardi. Yeah.
See, those are names that I remember, like Florence and
Oh, yeah.
Old Northern Kentucky.
Sure.
Back in the early '80s.
like Pat Patrick.
Pat Patrick and Matt Gallardi and Vern Lefevre's and Chuck McWilliams and
Right.
man, those guys was just putting on some
Oh, yeah.
races.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and you got to think, Josh is pretty tough right now, but I mean, Jerry was pretty daggone good.
Jerry won a lot of races too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not just at Florence.
And you
I
had
mean,
John McGill.
yes, John Gill, Jack
No,
Boggs.
John Gill. I said
Yeah.
McGill.
Yeah. Man, back then, Purvis, and then right at the end of Purvis's career, Scott Blomqvist came in the show, and I mean, just the names just go on and on.
Right. Yep. And I kind of worry about that because these cars are getting so ridiculous on upkeep and tires. Tires are. I honestly, I think we've been talking a lot about the sport and where it's going. When I sold my late model, actually, Blake Naylor bought my old car.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, I'd sit there for a long time. I'm like, man, I just want it gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sitting there in my shop. I'm not going to drive it anymore.
Right.
It's a good beginner car. Get in there, learn how to do it, tear it
Sure.
up, whatever. But I sold it to Blake Naylor, and that was the last car that I had.
So was that Blake's first car? His
No.
first late model? Or
Blake's late model, yeah.
Yeah, really?
Blake
Yeah.
Naylor's first late model was my old car.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
I know old Blake a little bit.
yeah. So, but that was where that car came from, and it was just the sport's different now.
Oh yeah.
I got back into the sport, and yeah, Kyle from CA103 called me, and hey, because Josh Jewell, he decided he's not gonna do it anymore with the dirt racing tour.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I like it. And
Do you like it?
I'm getting better. I'm not real good. I feel like when I do the interviews and different things, I get tripped up, and then I'll try to read a name, and it's like, I don't know how many, like, when you're born and you're a sprint car driver, you've got to have some screwed up name with a whole bunch of letters that you don't even pronounce.
Half of the alphabet.
Yeah. And it's like, where's this name come from? And now you're a sprint car driver, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, and it's like, really, really screwed up. So, I do have trouble with that. But.
I mean, I could pick fun at your high school because I went to the same high school.
Right, yeah,
so I could pick fun at your high school.
Right, so.
Not that I want to, because, man, I had some great teachers, but
sure.
I'm not blaming them for my faults, and spelling is not my thing.
You were busy drawing race cars.
I was busy drawing race cars on the desk saying I want to go fast.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to see, like, and I can't even remember, like...
it's funny, because math wasn't my strong suit either.
Yeah, well, you need math. You need math for race cars, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can remember you driving drawing late models.
I may have.
That was pretty daggone good. I mean, you could even see, like, the tire wrinkling up.
Yeah, I was good at that. I was my art class. I had that one down.
Yeah, art class, you got it. So.
Art class and lunch, I had that nailed. I might not have been good at Spanish.
Right.
Miss Edstead would be a little.
Yeah.
She'd be a little disappointed in my.
Miss Ola.
Yeah, she'd be a little disappointed in my Spanish right now. But hey, we have an app for that.
Right. Yeah. Actually. Miss Ekstad. Actually, when I was a sophomore, she went from Young to Ekstad. So I was actually in school there. I called her Miss Young all the time, and it's like Mrs. Ekstad. But she kind of gave me a way out there, because I was my senior year still doing Spanish, and I was not very good at it.
I heard you were worse than I was.
Oh, it was terrible. But I could count to 10. But we're sitting there, and like, I'm already enrolled in college. And I was working 2 jobs at the time to pay for the race car. I was actually a server at York Steakhouse, and I worked 3rd shift at Perkins. Yeah, Eastgate. Yep. I remember that. Oh my gosh.
Washing dishes.
Yeah, it was terrible. But I had to do what I had to do. I wanted to race.
Yeah. And, dishes had to get washed.
Yep. I wanted to buy parts off of Donna Clark and Bill Clark over at Racer Supply.
Yeah.
Over in Owensville, and then they moved to Russellville.
Yep.
And Bill took the Brown County Speedway over. That was when Stan Martin passed away.
Okay.
And that was...
in bowling. Bowling wasn't cheap either.
Right.
Back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back in the day it probably was, but...
Right.
Going out and bowling and shooting pool 3 or 4 nights a week.
Got to do that. That was a good time. I had a pretty good childhood and early adulthood, I guess. And
yeah, my school years were fun.
Yeah.
To say the least, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Made the best out of it, didn't we?
Right. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you were flipping burgers and washing dishes, and I was pumping gas and working the skating rink.
Right. Yep. The DJ at the skating rink.
The DJ at the skating rink. Man, I tell you, it was...
yeah, somebody brought that up to me the other day.
No kidding.
That was pretty cool. The skating rink days were pretty cool.
Yeah, it was something different. A lot of people got a McDonald's on their resume as their first job, and no, I worked at the skating rink. That was my gig.
Right. Yeah. Well,
stick with what you're good at, kid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say that you were a heck of a lot faster speed skater than I was. So you did win some races at that.
I could win some races at the on roller skates.
Oh yeah, yeah. You had some pretty good skates, and
I remember my first pair of skates. I mean, it was actually a pair of my dad. They were my dad's, and he gave them to me. And it's like, man, these things were old.
Right.
But they worked. They weren't rental skates.
Right.
But, just like your first race car, okay, I can make it better. So I bought wheels for my skates. And then next thing you know, I bought this for them. Next thing you know, I just ended up was buying my own skates. And when you work at the skating rink, hey, this is convenient. It works out.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Yeah. But, you were definitely a fast speed skater. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wasn't very good. I mean, I could get up like close to where you was at, and, maybe make win a couple heats or something. There was another guy. What the heck was his name? He was really fast.
Oh, that could have been a number of guys back then. Bobby Miller. Bobby was good.
Bobby was quick.
Bobby was good.
Yeah.
Bobby was quick. Yeah. Oh man, there's so many guys. Jason Collins.
Okay.
Jason Collins was from Bethel, and he was really good.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, I've had this conversation with people, and I told them, I said, look, if I was half as good at race cars as I was at roller skating,
right?
we'd be having way different conversations right now.
Well,
But I'm not, so here I am.
You would be talking to drivers. You'd be the driver.
I would be the driver.
Yeah.
I was pretty good.
But that was still a good time. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that part of my life. Roller skating, playing pool, bowling.
Yeah.
I wasn't good at any of them. I mean, I was okay at roller
Just
skating.
had fun at it.
Yeah, I was okay at pool.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
Man, like I said, it was. You get what you put into it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's just like racing. I missed a lot of my partying days with my buddies, and and I've talked to a few of my friends from high school. It's like I wasn't really like close to them.
Right.
Some of my senior class and stuff, and they all knew me. They all liked me. We all got along good.
Same.
But I'm in the garage. I'm in the shop, and I wanted to go fast. I wanted to race. I wanted to win.
Sure.
And, and it was like, I didn't have very good stuff, but...
That was your thing. That was your thing.
Yeah, I made it work.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I would cut it up and make it something different. That was one thing that Tom Muller always taught me. My dad, he was a really cool dude, and he died my hero. But my dad would say, that's good enough like that. And I would be like... It's not good enough.
No, it's not.
There's never a such thing as good enough.
No.
And that was one thing that Tom always taught me is like, man, you can always make it better.
You can always make it better.
Yeah. And,
absolutely.
And I pushed hard every day, and like I said, that was one thing because I knew I made a couple of them old guys proud. And that was one thing that kept me motivated with the racing. And my dad died in 2003. I won a ton of races between 99 and 2003, but when we got into that winter of 2003, my dad passed away June 24th of 2003.
Okay.
We got into that winter, and Billy and I was out in that garage every night all winter long, building engines in that little hole. And, probably about the room that I got on this desk here is about what I had to build an engine. And I built an engine, and that baby was just so smooth, and took it over to Brown County Speedway. And I mean, like I said, if you went into stat guys and stuff like that, I know there's a title that Little John holds for the most points in Brown County Speedway history.
Really?
Yep. And he won that trophy the year after I won the points championship, But I am pretty daggone sure that if you went back that season that I won the points at Brown County Speedway, I would challenge anybody to have a better finishing average than what I did that year.
Really?
We had a ton of rainouts.
Yeah.
But my finishing average was so good. My worst finish of the whole entire season was 5th.
Really?
Yep.
That's a pretty good average.
I flipped the car that night off the backstretch.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Randy Wash was trying to pass John Gutman.
Okay.
I think we were trying to lap him in the heat race.
Yeah.
John had an old car that was, it was a turd, and he
Yeah.
was trying to get some lap time and all that. And Randy started on the pole, and I started on the outside. And I was faster than Randy. Randy was, he's pushing it pretty hard, and we tried to split the lap car. Well, and I think Randy kind of spooked him a little bit. Old John kind of jumped up a little bit.
Get out of his way, yeah.
And I corkscrewed off the backstretch. And,
wow.
Flipped that car, corkscrewed it through the air, and it really didn't hurt it too bad. I mean, it bent a wheel, and we checked the tie rods and everything, and we got the body all fixed up, and went out. And Billy Thompson says that I won that feature. But I'm pretty sure I ran 5th that night.
Really?
Yeah, I ran 5th, and I came from the tail to 5th.
Yeah.
And
after flipping it off the backstretch.
Yeah. And it had no fenders on the front, no hood.
So it looked more like a modified at that time.
Much. It was pretty much a modified. Billy said it just had the radiator sticking out in front. I don't think it had the front bumper. It was all destroyed. We went out and ran the race, and like I said, I think I finished 5th.
Yeah.
And but that was the worst finish we had. Had really good luck. I probably had half the races over there were seconds.
Yeah.
I won probably 6-8 times, something like that.
Right.
And but I mean, it was just a magical season. We were really, really good that year. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we were like 1 point something on the average finishing order.
Yeah. Until you get that 1/5 place.
Yeah, even with that one, it was still we were.
Man, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
So we were pretty good that year.
Yeah.
And like I said, I kind of that was a tribute to my dad, and we made the what was it, not the Latham, let's see, it was a big race over at Florence. We made that. I think I ran like 9th or something like that.
Maybe a fall 50 or something like that.
Yeah. But it was a pretty good finish over at Florence. We were fast. I remember racing with some really good cars over there, and there were some big guys there, and I think what's his name? Let's see. I know Eddie Carrier was up in the front, and I think. Trying to remember who won that race. I think it was Earl Pearson Jr. won.
Yeah, that's a maybe.
Yeah, and I was up there like 9th or something like that.
Yeah,
was, where I finished, and that, like I said, it was a really good year. We went to Skyline.
Okay.
And I set fast time out there. Won the heat race. Started on the pole of feature.
Skyline Speedway, not Skyline, the restaurant.
Right, Skyline Speedway.
I still like to plug that Skyline. I don't have a Skyline sponsor, but
I
keep hoping one day.
Yeah, maybe. You just gotta find the right people.
I just gotta find the right people to hear me say Skyline enough.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen.
But yeah, we won a race at Brush Creek.
Now, was this the original, the big D-shaped track, or was it after the cut down version?
Okay, so let's see. That was you're right. Brush Creek, I won when they cut the track down. First year they cut it down.
So I remember
that was around 07.
Okay, I remember going to Brush Creek. They were just still building the place.
Oh yeah.
Place wasn't done yet. They just had it started cutting in the dirt, and me and you drove out there to check his place out, and it's like, man, that's pretty neat. This place was huge at the time too.
What in the world are you doing?
Yeah.
So, that was a
they built a racetrack.
Yeah. I actually got to run the go-kart track out there for a little
Really?
while. Yeah.
Okay.
So, which, that was something I was going to ask you. I've been meaning to ask you. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
But, that one go-kart, I actually got that from Tara. I can't remember her last name. She used to ride a number 22 late model for her dad. Tara was her name. But anyways, it was almost a brand new go-kart.
Okay.
And I put that together for you to go play around with. And
yes. Oh, yeah. So I bought this go-kart from you.
Yeah.
And then me and the boys that was helping me on my modified at the time, we went down to, where was that track at? They had an indoor track.
Yeah.
Was that Feesburg? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we go down there, and I'm thinking, all right, we're going to go play with this thing and see how this goes, right? So we get down there, and I don't know what the deal was. Anyway, the guy came over to look at it, make sure it was legal.
Yeah.
He says, man, I tell you what. He says, it's legal, but he says, here's the deal. He says, man, this is a pretty big event. He says, there's guys here with factory carts and stuff.
Right.
He says, you do what you want. He said, but you might just want to sit and watch this one out. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'll do that. So we did. We watched, and man, those guys were good. They knew what they were doing. I'm like,
yeah.
I still would have liked to have been out there.
Right.
So before I actually got to go racing with it, another buddy of mine, he had a backyard, built a track in his backyard.
Right.
And he was just buying carts, and so him and his buddies, and he said, hey, I heard you got a cart. And I said, yeah, kind of did. He said, well, bring it over and race with us. I said, all right. So I took it over and raced with him, and we had fun, and he bought it from me. I'm like, I had no intention of selling it. I wanted to still race it. He said, well, I'm just buying carts, so me and my buddies. I'm like, well, all right, here it is.
Yeah, there you go.
So I ended up selling it before I really got to...
Okay.
One of those things, you know.
So that engine that was on that cart, my son Blake drove that, and it was it wasn't like a legal purple plate cart, which was restricted.
That's why it was so fast.
Yeah. So it was not like it had a bullnose cam in it instead of a slapper cam.
Right.
And it was kind of a modified Briggs & Stratton engine.
Yeah.
And Blake never got beat in that engine.
Yeah, it was a fast little thing. I mean,
it was pretty quick.
My buddy wanted it awful bad. Now I
know
why.
I wonder whatever happened to that guy.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I think it was Chad Oberson.
Okay.
I think he bought it off of me.
Okay.
Up in Fairfield, he had a nursery, Oberson's nursery, and he had a go-kart track out back, and he was just collecting carts and building carts. Him and his buddies always had something to race with. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, wasn't there NASCAR guy Clint Boyer did that?
Yeah.
He had a whole bunch of.
Gosh, those guys can afford to do that kind of crap, though.
Well, if I was Clint Boyer and I had that is exactly what I would do.
Ah, yeah.
I mean, them go-karts are fun.
They are.
And,
they are.
Yeah.
You know what else is fun? I hate to say it, legend cars.
Oh, yeah.
Those little things are wicked fast for what they are.
Right.
And they're fun.
Sure.
I mean...
I've never driven one. we were talking about Brush Creek.
Yep.
And I ran the go-kart track for Tom Parton at Brush Creek. He built a go-kart track. I had a pretty good time running it. But, I mean, my boys were racing and, it kind of helped keep them going with things.
Yeah.
But, man, that was an absolute good time to do the go-kart thing. And, I mean, if I had an opportunity to where I could do that and I had the money to do that, and I had friends that were interested in racing like that, heck yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
But Tom always told me that we were going to take one of those legend cars, and him and I was going to go out on Brush Creek in front of that crowd, and him and I was going to race them because he was going to spank my butt.
Yeah.
So he kept telling me that, and I'm like, whenever you're ready, buddy. And,
dude, whenever you're ready. Yeah.
So it never ended up happening, but.
I always liked Tom. So I say that because I got two stories. One, I worked at the skating rink, but I don't know that I really consider that a big kid job.
Right.
One of my first big kid jobs, I was still in high school. My buddy Danny says, "Hey, I need some help over here at the shop. Help me work on cars." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it's a good summer job, I'm thinking, my first weekend or first day in, I'm going to be sweeping floors and helping out with this and that and handing tools. And Danny says, "Go pull the motor out of that truck." I've never pulled a starter off a car before. Here I'm pulling a motor out of a truck. So, yeah. I always had a lot of respect, and I always liked Tom. The flip side of that is later in life, I think Tom became not such a fan of me when I DQ'd one of his cars.
That happens. That's actually pretty funny.
That is kind of funny. Do you want to elaborate on that?
So just say, So we went from Tom Parton, which runs that's the owner of Brush Creek. Now we're back over to Tom Moeller.
Tom Moeller, yeah.
Okay, so Tom Moeller went out on vacation. He went to I think he went out to South Dakota.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, I can't keep up with all this on my own. I'm running the shop and everything. Yeah, I had you come over and you worked for me for a week. And,
maybe 2. Maybe a day. I don't recall.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think it was a week.
Yeah.
And,
you just needed help while he was on vacation.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was so horrible you fired me after a week.
Right.
I was just a temporary thing.
Right. So but I mean that was pretty cool. We we cleaned the shop when we got done. We actually got a lot of work done that week.
Yeah.
And
not because of me, I can promise you that.
But that was pretty cool.
So later in life, Tom has a sport mod.
Right.
And so you were driving, right?
Right.
Okay. So later in life, and this is, I don't know, what was this? Maybe 5 years ago ish.
Something like, I think it was 16, maybe 16, 17. Who knows?
So, lo and behold, I was the tech guy working at Moeller. I was working for Brad McCowan, and the idea was, man, Moeller and Florence shared a lot of cars back and forth, so if we get the same tech guy doing the same things, it's beneficial for everything.
Sure.
And Brad said, well, I'm going to have my tech guy come down from Atomic. And then that way you and him can get on the same page. And then because Atomic and Moeller cars, he said, man, this is just in lines and everybody's on the same pages and this is a good thing. And I'm like, I like it. This is a good thing. So it started out, I was just supposed to show his guy what I was doing. He ended up not showing whatever, so I became the tech guy.
Right.
That's fun. So my buddy Danny shows up one night, and I'm like, oh, that's my old buddy Danny from high school out there racing. Heck yeah. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, go Dan, I think he's going to get this win. I'm like, heck yeah. So I'm kind of in the back of my mind cheering him on a little bit, wanting to see my buddy win, and he pulls down the victory lane there, and I start checking the car over, and I don't know what the heck kind of carburetor that was, but it was not the Holley 4412 that was in the rule book.
Right.
It did not pass the gauge. It was just like, whoa, this ain't good.
Yeah.
Like, Dan, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's good. It's just I'm like, no, it kind of is not good.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was one of the things. Tom had that carburetor and put it on there, and. It is what it is. Had the choke horn cut off of it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, the 4412 had to have the number stamped on the choke horn. And actually, it does pass the go no go gauge. On the little tools that you put in there.
Yeah.
But it did have the horn cut off of it.
Okay. And I just remember there was this thing. It didn't have the number, and there was something goofy about this thing. It wasn't.
So somebody came up with a carburetor. I can't remember who it was, whether it's Willys or what, but it don't have a choke horn on it, and they were allowing those to run in that class.
At the time, Holley also had a 4412 XP.
Okay.
The XP had it removed.
Yeah.
The XP came out. It was like a racing version of the 4412.
Right.
It's supposed to have been out of built material and all this, but it still said 4412. It passed the gauge. So they did allow that one, even though it didn't have the choke tower and all that. But anyway, so Brad says, well, is it legal or not? I said, man, Brad, it's not a 4412. The rules say it has to be a 4412. And I said, Danny wants to talk to you and, see if there's anything you can do. He said, well, is it good or is it no good? I said, man, I don't think it's good. It's not good.
Right.
So the next day, I know at the same time, I said, man, me and this guy went to high school together, and we were pretty tight. Yeah. We were like pretty good buds. We were best friends in high school.
Right.
He said, is it legal or not? And I said, no, it's not. He said, okay. Tells me everything I need to know about you. Yeah. So I'm like, man, that sucks. But I've also said this. So, tech guy at Florence.
Yeah.
I worked for, and it's no secret, I work for Jesse Lay.
Right.
I've disqualified Jesse Lay for a left front tire, and it's like, of all tires, it's like, man, look, dude, if my mom was out there and she was running something that wasn't no good, no, I'd DQ her ass too.
Right. Well, I mean, that's honestly that's what the sport needs. If they're gonna have tech, you gotta.
But I don't think Tom was real happy with me.
Well, it is what it is. But
yeah,
I
think he got over
it. The gauge didn't. You cannot get the gauge to drop down in the carburetor,
right.
which is what makes the carburetor what it is. And,
Yep.
So, all in all, like I said, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
They did tech that the year before, and we teched it every week, and they passed it every time.
Really?
But when they changed it to the 4412,
yeah,
they said, this is what you run, I get it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it says it right in the rules. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I got DQ'd one time over at Moran's Motorsports Complex over in Maysville.
Oh, okay, 8 Maysville. I was thinking of the other Marines.
Yeah, go-karts.
Okay,
over on the AA highway.
Yeah.
And I went over there one night, and we Blake won the feature, and they had rules of like, hey, your valve can only open 233, and that's how much lift you're allowed to have on a valve on a Briggs and Stratton. And thing is this big Briggs and Stratton, anybody that's ever worked on a small engine knows when the valve guides get worn out. Now, I had the bosses all cut out of mine and everything, so the valve guide was like really, really short, and the valve would go up and it'd kind of do that. Well, when the valve would do that, up on this edge, you could measure over here, and you could get more than 233 out of a cam that only makes 233.
Right.
So, because the valve, when it would rock up, that's what it would read.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there like, it failed. And I'm like, it's a 233 cam. I mean, take it out and measure it. It's what it is. And he was like, read the rules. No more than 233 lift. And I'm sitting there like, you're right. I guess I'm DQ'd. So.
You cheating bastard.
Yeah, like, whatever. I got wore out valve guys, and here we go. So,
yeah.
Whatever, but yeah, I mean that's I got DQ'd for that, and like I said, that was one thing with that car, the Sport Mod. I was driving that car. I was working a lot, and Tom pretty much handled the car and everything. But,
right.
It is what it is. I mean, we're trying to, go out there and do the best we can, and that's part of it.
So, how you liking when you mentioned the job C103 working with Kyle?
Okay.
How do you like that?
Well, I tell you what, I listen to my broadcasts like all the time, trying to like
critique.
Try to make it better.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody else in the world that's in the racing world. If you're not trying to get better every single time you do something, then, get out.
Yeah.
You don't need to be here.
Yeah.
And
I hate my voice. I watch my stuff or I listen to my stuff and it's like I cannot stand my voice.
Right.
I've announced at a couple of different racetracks. I've announced at Moeller. Not like every single week, just here and there as a sub. I've announced at Moeller or Florence, and it's like. Yeah. Everybody says, man, you do a great job. But I'm like, I can't stand my voice.
Right. Well, I'm the same way, but my thing is, Kyle can roll right through it. But, I mean, he's been doing it since...
He's done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we took 2 race cars out there, I'm sure that I would just half-track him.
Just wax him.
Yeah. But, when we're in his world, I mean, he is
he's good. He's good.
Like, that dude is incredible.
Yeah, he's good.
And now, I'm sitting there with the headphones on, and there was a little bit of trouble either at the station or a connection or something, and it's going, and I'm sitting there like, what in the world is going on? And Kyle just kept on talking. I'm going,
yeah. How do you do that?
I don't know what to do.
I didn't know what to do with my hands.
It's like, he just kept on rolling with it, and there's been races where, whether it's a heat race or whatever, but, like I said, that was kind of where I made the reference to the sprint car guys with crazy names that you can't pronounce.
Oh, gosh.
I've got to come up with, like, how I'm going to say this, and it's like...
Hornet guys.
Yeah.
Compacts. Those guys got some weird names, too.
Yeah,
I'm like...
got all kinds of weird people out there, but, we're
I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, but, man, I absolutely love working with Kyle.
Yeah.
And
he's a good dude.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of... he's been doing it a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, me kind of coming on, it's kind of pump some new life maybe into him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Because you know, his son Spencer. I mean, I you know, he's a really good kid.
Yeah.
You know, Spencer goes around, and any of the interviews that you see me do, Spencer's the one holding the camera on me.
The camera, yeah.
And you know, like I said, it's. I think the reason I'm there is not because I've got a good voice, not because I talk well, because I feel like I'm terrible at that. I think the reason that I'm there is because I've got that experience, and I've been talking to Kyle, and one thing that I really want to do is get that camera and microphone down into the pits.
Yeah.
Like actually be in there with those guys, and
I seen your stuff with Tyler Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, yeah, Tyler, that kid there, he's something else.
He's a loose nut, ain't he?
Yeah, but I mean, you look at some of the things that kid does and what he says. I mean, he kind of reminds me of what I tried to be when I was young.
Reminds you of you.
Yeah, I wanted to be that kid.
Yeah. Now,
when I was driving street stocks, I was just as wild as anybody that ever raced up there.
Right.
And I can remember one night I had a teacher from high school. I'm trying to remember what the guy's name was. It started with an F. But, oh my gosh, I can't remember the guy's name.
It's because you're getting old.
He came up to watch me race a car.
Huh.
And I'm like...
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And I went up, talked to him, everything, and I'm like, you know, I got to put on a show for this guy.
Yeah.
So anybody that ever went to Brown County Speedway back in the day, if there was a caution and you would leave the track and they'd start racing, you could just merge right back onto the racetrack. And, I mean, it's like unheard of now.
Yeah.
But there was a big grid out in front, and you could actually come out and jump back onto the racetrack.
Yeah. So
here was the thing I thought was one of the funniest things that, you know, if I was watching from his perspective, I was racing. I don't know. I bounced into somebody, who knows, and I knocked down the right front. And I came in, my brother Joe and Dad and all of them, they threw a tire on for me, so I could go back out and get some laps. And here I am, like, going as hard as I can. And you know, when I came in with the right front flat, they got the tire off, put a new one on. I go out, and I'm like wide open through the pits like an idiot. I have no idea why, you know, why that was even legal back then. I was probably one of the reasons they changed that rule to where there, for no circumstance do you ever enter the track while cars are racing. Yeah. But here I am.
Here comes Danny.
Yeah. They just got the green flag, and they came out, and here I am. I ramp back onto the track, and I come out right in front of the leaders.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I think maybe a couple of them passed me when we went into the when they got around the corner there. I ramped onto the track, and I'm running 40 mile an hour faster than they are. Yeah. When I enter the track, and I went all the way down the straightaway, and I passed them all, so I'm ahead of everybody again. So now I'm back on the tail of the lead lap. Yeah. And I'm like, man, ain't I cool? Until I touched the brake to get into turn 3. Yeah. And I had none. The right front, when the right front came off, it took the caliper hose too. Oh, yeah. And I went off the end of Brown County Speedway about 900 mile an hour. I had no idea that there was 900. A house there. But, yeah, the Cackleys lived in that house, and I didn't realize.
It was so close.
I didn't know. I did not know, and I ended up in their driveway by the time it was all said and done. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. But, yeah.
Danny. Put on a show, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I did. He was like, what in the world were you doing? But could you imagine, like, you know, watching a race now, like Jonathan Davenport, Ricky Thornton Jr. lining up. They're taking the green flag, and then you got some hooligan that comes running.
Some Tyler Carpenter kid coming out.
Pretty much. But,
that's funny.
But yeah, that was. But yeah, Tyler's very animated. I love to watch that kid.
He's a character.
Yeah, and I know some people think that, you know, oh, he's a jerk, he's a cherry picker, whatever, you know, whatever you want to say about him, who cares? Yeah. But I can't personally sit here and tell you that it's like, say a late model guy, and be like, I don't really like him.
Yeah.
Or I don't really like that guy. It's like you need all those guys.
Yeah.
If you don't have Michigan, what the heck good is it to watch Ohio State play football?
Right.
You got to have them at the end. You got to
have them. You got to have them all.
Yeah, and every one of those race car drivers are giving up a lot to get there. The passion that they have.
Yeah.
And it's just I think that's absolutely incredible to see those guys come out there and compete every night. And
put on a show.
Yeah, and they're away from their families.
Yeah.
A lot of the younger guys that they kind of grew up into it. Like I was thinking, like Hudson O'Neal.
Yeah.
What it's like being him. He's just a kid that's out on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And but man, it's just such a cool experience for those guys.
Yeah.
And it's cool for me to watch and to kind of relive all that because, I didn't actually even have a kid till I was 26.
Right.
And I was, out running around trying to be those guys. I wanted to be with those guys.
Yeah.
And I never got the right opportunity and wasn't good enough to get there.
Yeah.
Wasn't good enough or wasn't lucky enough or something. But
whatever. Didn't have enough money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta have money.
Gotta have money,
and you gotta know the right people. And,
Yep.
I all of my people that I hung around was poorer than I was. So.
Yeah.
But but we had a good time and
had fun doing it.
Some of them guys hustle. I do know that.
There you go. Dan, I tell you what, man, we could probably sit here for hours, and we might turn the camera off, sit around for another hour. Who knows? But probably gonna wrap things up. Anything else, or anybody you need to mention? I know you talked about your dad a little bit, and brother Joe helping you out.
Right.
Anybody else you definitely need to thank or anything before we wrap things up?
Well, I mean, it's just the guys that really meant a lot to me racing wise. Barry Doss. We talked about him for a minute.
Yeah, we kind of touched over.
Yeah, so Barry and I worked together for over 20 years, and man, I tell you what, like that guy was something else because I never realized. He was always one of them guys. He was so smart and such a good mechanic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like working with Kyle now.
Yeah.
He was like on this different level.
Yeah.
And Barry was kind of that guy as a mechanic, and I'm like, my God, that guy's just unbelievable.
Is there anything he can't do?
And I didn't realize it took they had to hire a couple of real dummies from out in Adams County before I realized I'm like, hey, I'm not here as dumb as I thought I was. But anyway, Barry back in the day, he was still racing late models. I was kind of getting out because I was coaching my kids so much, and ended up taking Austin, Barry's son.
Mm-hmm.
We started going racing a lot.
Okay.
And when we started going racing a lot, I mean, it was like, Austin would be at my house a lot and spend the night and things. I would take Blake, Austin, and AJ, and we would go out and have a good time. Well, I ended up killing a car over at Brush Creek, and I was right behind Marty Huntley. I won the week before over there, and and I was right on Marty Huntley. I'm like, hey, here we go. I'm going to try to make it 2 in a row, and Marty Huntley's engine blew up, and it just like the oil and water on my helmet visor. I'm like, had no clue where I was at. I just kind of went like this, and that was it. I bounced it off the wall where it said right where it said "wicked fast." Hit my right rear right there and just knocked the whole clip over, junked it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was one thing. The last race car that I had, Barry actually gave it to me. He had a deal worked out. The guy was going to help him dig a pond.
Yeah.
And he kind of let him down. Barry had the chassis sitting there, and he brought it over, and he's like, "Here, just there you go." He gave me another chassis, and I was like, "Man, that was like one of the coolest things anybody ever done." And I thanked him for it a few times, but I mean, it's like what it actually meant at the time, and where I was at in the world.
That's pretty cool.
That was really cool, and like I said, Barry was a heck of a racer, and a lot of people liked him. He was just,
Oh yeah.
I don't really know why, because I mean he's kind of mean actually.
Quiet, yeah.
Yeah, I remember one time.
Wasn't real talkative at all.
No, he didn't say a lot. Like I said, he would pick on you.
Nah. That's my pretty good Barry impression.
Oh my gosh.
Nah.
I know one time I was dipping, and Barry was going to quit smoking. I was going to quit dipping, and I had a big old dip in, and he come up and he put his forearm right on my lip, right there, and he just squeezed, and I would just about die.
Oh.
I think I was within a couple of seconds of dying. But Barry was really cool back then. He helped me a lot with the car. And taught me a lot.
Yep.
And
Barry's just another one of those guys. He's like, man, I'm dying to go and do an episode with Barry.
Yeah.
Get some old Barry doll stories.
Well, Barry'd be a pretty cool one to do. With his heart attack and stuff, he kind of feels like he had I don't know if the confidence is there to be able to talk to you or not.
Yeah.
I will say that back in the day, Barry was really calm under pressure.
Uh-huh.
Because
I don't ever remember him getting excited about anything.
No. But just to give you an idea, when they built East Fork Lake,
yeah,
they had all these. There was tons of roads all over that place.
Okay.
And they went down across the creek there, which East Fork was just a creek. And all of those roads, they closed them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's been 20 years ago. So you can imagine if they close a road,
sure,
and 20 years worth of growth.
Yeah.
Some of it they kept up, but I can remember a story. Somebody I never brought up that was such a great racer back in the day was John Sizemore.
Oh, yeah.
So John was a heck of a racer. He won a few races here and there too, and heck of a racer. But Barry and I was at lunch from Mount Ord Ford, and we went down and we were investigating down at East Fork.
Okay.
And we go cricking. That was a thing we do, go cricking.
Okay.
Whether it's going to a covered bridge and checking it out, or creeks or whatever. Well, we're down there, and I mean, I'm talking 20 years of growth on this road. Right. And I've got a 1998 Ford Escort.
Oh, yeah.
My green Ford Escort.
Yep.
And, I mean, it was a $700 car at best back then. I mean, this is probably, I don't know, 06 maybe.
Yeah.
And I go down to East, we get down there, and that's as far as we could go. And there's no place to turn around. We're trying to figure a place to turn around. Well, anyway, we get ready to go back. John Sizemore calls Barry Doss. Barry's sitting in the passenger seat of my car. He's talking to John Sizemore. I'm like, all right. I put this car in reverse, and I stood on it. And I am wide open as fast as a 1998 Escort will go.
In reverse.
In reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on the wood, and it is not going. And Barry's like, yep. Nope. All right. He's sitting there talking to John like nothing's going on.
Yeah.
There's tree branches that's
slapping the car.
I mean, there's branches rolling off of it, and we're there was like branches on the road too.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of them were like, ramping over and stuff. He didn't break character at all.
Didn't phase him a bit.
Yeah. It was like he'd have been sitting in here by himself or something. But I thought that was like a really funny story of Barry.
That's good. That's good.
That, and we all went to Mud Lick one night. And back then, I was still playing soccer. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, we played soccer a little bit together.
Yeah, we may have.
Yeah. So
soccer, softball.
Soccer. I'm trying to learn how to do all this and like learn how to play because I mean they didn't have soccer when I was in high school.
Nope, me neither.
They started that when right
after I graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I had a hacky sack. Mm-hmm. Well, I lost my hacky sack, but I'd still play with it at the racetrack and give me something to do. Well, Barry's playing with me. Well, we didn't have a hacky sack, but I made do. I grabbed like a number 2 rock.
Yeah.
And I wrapped it up in a shop towel. And we're sitting there, and then I put a little duct tape on it. I mean, it made a hacky sack.
Okay.
So here we are playing hacky sack. Well, I'm in regular gym shoes or my work boots, I don't know what. But Barry's in his driving shoes, and then you know how the driving shoes are. I mean, they're basically socks.
They're a little thinner.
On.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sitting there playing for a little bit, and he's like, damn, I'm gonna have to quit. Feels like I'm kicking a rock. I'm like, well,
you kind of are.
You're kicking a rock. But,
oh, that's
a
funny.
couple funny stories with Barry.
Well, if I ever get a chance to talk to Barry, I got something to go off of.
Yeah, I feel like he's kicking a rock.
Yeah. Cool.
But
cool.
anyway, yeah, no, it's awesome to have you come in here and do
well,
this.
Good.
It's cool. It doesn't matter if you're a washed-up has-been like me, or if you're like on top of the game now, or whatever. But man, it's like I said, just keep these stories rolling.
Buddy, that's it. I just like recording these stories because eventually, if we don't record them, they're gonna get forgotten.
Right.
So,
right.
So here we are.
Somebody else here too. That you need to talk to is Pierce Foster.
Oh yeah, I mentioned this to Pierce last year.
Really?
Yeah.
He
didn't shy away from it. Yeah, him and your dad were buddies from back in the day.
Yeah, Pierce actually drove for my dad.
Yeah.
So my dad had a motorcycle wreck that messed him up pretty good. He had a car ready to go. It was a 62 Studebaker Lark.
Yeah.
That was my dad's first race car, that was the race car, and they raced it like 1969 and 70.
Yeah.
My brother Joe was helping, and that was 3 years before I was born.
Right.
So, but yeah, Dad had a motorcycle wreck and got all tore up, and he just went ahead and put Pierce in the car and let Pierce drive. But yeah, Pierce is a heck of a dude. He actually brings cars out here for me to work on all the time.
Does he?
Yeah, and
all right, we're gonna call him up here in a minute.
Yeah.
When we turn this camera off, we're calling Pierce up.
There we go. But yeah, no, it's awesome to get to do it. And
absolutely, this is one of those, man. I've been wanting to do for a while.
Right.
Anybody that's seen some of my stuff, I know we've talked about some of the stories. One night we were coming home from was it Goddard?
Yeah.
Where we got pulled over on the way home. Yeah, that was a good one.
You're probably better at telling the story than I am. But,
yeah, it's came up before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back and watch it. You'll like it. It was good times. So, good deal. All right. Well, Dan, thanks for having me out, man. Thanks for taking the time. And, man, let's recording some good stories.
Yep, I appreciate it.
We're probably going to turn this thing off. And, like I said, we're probably going to talk a little longer, but stuff that we don't want on camera. So, thanks for watching. Hope you guys all liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And, man, just like always, we'll see you at the track next week. Thanks.